Hello everyone, Brad Logan here reporting for 247 Sports and Inside the Rebels, Reps247.com. Ole Miss is going to Omaha. A day later, after things have kind of sunk in just a little bit, Ole Miss has dispatched of Southern Miss after two games. Two games in which it held Southern Miss scoreless. Two games in which it shut out a team that has not had any shutouts all year long. The last two games up until this point of the season. So how do we get here? How do we get here as a collective body of people that cover Ole Miss? How do we get here as a fan base? How do we get here as a message board member at Reps247.com? I think you look at it in a couple of different ways, peeling back the onion, so to speak. This team opened up the season at one point, as we all know, got to number one in the country, deservingly so. And things happened. Pitching fell apart. Hitters stopped hitting. The defense kind of went down. But one thing that didn't change was Coach Mike Bianco. He stayed true. A couple things we'll get to in a moment. He did things that he hasn't done in the past. He altered his lineup, and he understood the surroundings of what was going on. He listened to some noise, something he hasn't done before. But let's revert back. After the Rebs get to number one, things get to an all-time low. A loss to Southeast Missouri State at home. We've talked about it ad nauseum with Jared Redding, who, by the way, has done a phenomenal job covering this Ole Miss baseball team for us over at Inside the Rebels. Tywone Malone's home run is what kept SEMO from coming to Oxford and run-ruling the Rebels. Now, they would end up winning the game, I think, 13-3. And everybody had Mike Bianco's obituary written. I did too. The team was dead, and so was the coaching staff. It was a new day for Ole Miss. Things rock along. Team gets better. Not maybe on paper. We had Mike Bianco on the podcast. He basically said, wait a minute. It's not just that Arkansas series in which Ole Miss lost 2 of 3 to the Hogs in Fayetteville to where they got better. He reverted back to the previous series against Mississippi State. Obviously, Bulldogs came to town, won 2 out of 3. But Mike Bianco saw something in the team. He saw the hitters, the defense, and obviously the pitching. He said they got better. He saw that light switch go off. Now we look back and think maybe he was true. Maybe it was right. Because the midweek game against Mississippi State, the Rebels went to the Governor's Cup and won. That proved to be a key component for a number of reasons. Number one, I think the selection committee used that game along with the win over Southern Miss down in Hattiesburg, that time number 11 ranked Southern Miss. Those were the two games I think got Ole Miss into the NCAA tournament to begin with. But Mike pointed out that win, the Governor's Cup, compounded the fact of how well they played the week before. That's what made the difference. Now, obviously, we know that Ole Miss would eventually go to Arkansas, lose 2 out of 3, but that's where I thought Ole Miss kind of got things rolling. At that point, we know what happened. LSU, Missouri, things started really going into a positive direction. And then Vanderbilt happened in the SEC tournament. Rebels entered the tournament, remember, 14 conference wins. Not a good spot to get in the NCAA tournament. Lose that game, and then I guess you could say that's where history starts. Ole Miss gets into an incredibly difficult regional. What happens? 3 games, 3 wins, dominating fashion, dominating pitching. Now, credit Miami, the Rebs only won 2-1. But dominating over Arizona twice because of its pitching and its middle relief led by Josh Mallett, who I've said probably the most undecorated player that should receive more recognition than anybody on the team. The only thing Josh Mallett did was everybody, including me, left him in Starkville last year on that Sunday afternoon whenever the Rebs would lose that game against Mississippi State. What'd he do? Came back to work. He came back to work, worked all offseason, entered the season this year, as Coach Mike Bianco told us on the podcast, had mono. What'd he do? He's the number 1 arm out of the bullpen. I'm including Brandon Johnson and anyone else that comes in. But Mason Nichols also terrific out of the bullpen. Jack Doherty, Washburn, Gaddis, they just turned it on in the latter part of the year. I credit Ole Miss and Mike Bianco, Carl Lafferty, the pitching coach, for doing so much. Mike Clement from getting the bats going. Ole Miss runs rough shot in the Coral Gables Regional, matched up against Southern Miss. Things kind of fell into place. I thought Ole Miss would have a much better shot of beating the Golden Eagles, who, by the way, fantastic ball team. Scott Berry, not only a great coach, a great person. Coach Berry said at the end of the game, I know you've all seen it, how much he was proud of Ole Miss and how well they played. Such a good man. Had a great time down in Hattiesburg. The fans, the media, just could not have been nicer. So, look, I've got a special spot for Southern Miss. I've got a ton of friends that are Golden Eagle fans. I'm personal friends with the athletic director, Jeremy McClain. I wish Southern Miss could have advanced. It just happened to be up against the Ole Miss Rebels. Dominating the Golden Eagles, did not allow a run. Pitching, hitting, it's Ole Miss's year. I'd be far pressed to say this could be the most important athletic run in modern history. Now, we look at football, I get it. Ben Garrett and David Johnson on the Crossover podcast made the point that what was Ole Miss playing for in the Sugar Bowl? Now, look, it was great. I mean, anytime you get to the Sugar Bowl, that's good. They were playing for whatever place in the country. What are they playing for now? I'd be hard-pressed to say that Ole Miss is not the hottest team in the country, but Ole Miss has the opportunity to do what Mississippi State did last year, get hot at the right time, and win a college baseball national championship. So all of a sudden the prize gets a lot larger. I don't know that I'm ready to just say that now because Ole Miss is going to have to face incredible competition. You make it to the top 8 teams in the country, that means that everybody's going to be really, really good. I like the bracket. We'll see what happens tonight between Auburn and Oregon State. I think Ole Miss could play well. I think this bracket matches up against Arkansas. So, look, everybody's going to be good. But who's hotter than Ole Miss? And finally today, Mike Bianco. We all had Coach Bianco kind of buried, for the lack of a better word. How much do you have to feel good for him? How much pressure was off of Keith Carter now that he was going to have to make a very difficult decision should Ole Miss not get out of the Coral Gables Regional? This is a perfect example of when you're given an opportunity like Ole Miss was given, you take advantage of it. And they did. This is a perfect example in life. Ole Miss was given an opportunity to get inside the NCAA tournament and make noise. Do I think they were given that opportunity because of the name on the chest? I don't know. Were they given that opportunity because Mike Bianco's the head coach of USA Baseball and he has been the head coach at Ole Miss for 22 years? I don't know. But what did they do? They have taken full advantage of that. Mike Bianco is going to go down in history, along with Coach Swayze, is the best baseball coach in Ole Miss history. And he can be the best if he wins a couple of more games and wins the national championship. And alongside that statue of Tim Elko, I think they should build it with Mike Bianco. One quick thing before we go. We'll keep you up to date at Reps247.com, Inside the Rebels, an affiliate of 247 Sports, about all the ticket information, about hotels, and about everything you need to know in regards to the Rebels' run to Omaha. There'll be daily content. David Johnson and Jared Redding have done a great job. We'll do our best to keep you posted via video and also on the podcast. At the end of the day, Ole Miss is going to Omaha and playing the College World Series, and we can't believe it. And I know you can't either. It's an exciting time to be an Ole Miss Rebel. If you're not a part of the website, please join today. We've got a great deal going on. Brad Logan here reporting for Inside the Rebels and Reps247.com.